Hi everybody, it's Usernamekate. Welcome back to the channel. Today, I have a Suzuki DR-Z4SM in my presence. And this is Suzuki's supermoto version of their newly released DR-Z. Now, it just looks like a recipe for fun. It's got the small supermoto wheels on it. It just looks cool. The rims are chef's kiss. So if you want to learn a little bit about the bike, the stats, the specs, what it's like for me to sit on, what it's like for me to ride, my pros, my cons, then definitely keep watching and I'll catch you after the intro. Starting with the price, the 2026 Suzuki DR-Z4SM is £7,999 on the road in the UK. It also comes available in two colour options, sky grey or solid special white. Power comes from a 398cc liquid-cooled single-cylinder engine producing just shy of 38 brake horsepower at 8,000 rpm and 37 Nm of torque at 6,500 rpm. It's also paired with a 5-speed gearbox. Suspension is KYB front and rear. At the front there's an upside down fork with 260mm of travel and adjustable compression and rebound damping. At the rear there's a KYB shock with 277mm of rear wheel travel plus preload and rebound damping adjustment. Brakes are a 310mm front disc with a dual piston caliper and a 240mm rear disc with a single piston caliper. The bike has ABS as standard and the rear ABS can be turned off completely. Features include ride-by-wire throttle, Suzuki drive mode selector, switchable traction control, Suzuki clutch assist, an LCD dash and LED lighting all round. Wet weight is 154 kilograms, the fuel tank capacity is 8.7 litres and the seat height is 890mm. Now for reference, I'm a 5'4" individual or 162 centimetres with a 29-inch or 73.66cm inseam, and this is what it looks like for me to sit on Suzuki's DR-Z4SM. Right, now you know what that looks like, I think it's time to ride. Okie dokie ladies and gentlemen, today I am riding Suzuki's DR-Z4SM. This is their supermoto version of their DR-Z. Now we've had a little bash on the S. That video is live on both mine and my better half's channel, Mike. For those of you who are quite new to my channel and don't know who Mike is the competent off-roader out of the two of us. So if you want to see how Suzuki's DR-Z4S performs off-road, he is definitely a man to check out. But yeah, we're not really going to focus on that bike today, we're going to focus on this one. So of course, because this is their supermoto version of that, we do of course have less travel in the suspension, we do of course have smaller supermoto wheels, and of course we get stuck behind a learner driver. Oh no. Just so you know, I want to put it out there, this bike does come with two mirrors. I've only got this one on at the moment because of how they were loaded in the van. We literally have to play Tetris in our old van, so yeah, we had to take the mirror off. I've not put it back on, but do as I say, not as I do. I always try and ride with both mirrors. Well, I am keen with my lifesavers, so that should hopefully help save my life, since it's a lifesaver. But we have got a new van now, so we don't have to take bikes apart to fit them in, which is great. But yeah, back onto this bike. Now, I was thinking about this bike. I do actually, contrary to popular belief, put a bit of thought in to the machines that I'm about to ride before I ride them. And for me, supermotos, when I think of a supermoto, I think super hardcore aggressive machines like, I don't know, the Aprilia SVX
550 for example, needs a rebuild, engine rebuild every 2 hours or something daft. I think of like Honda CR500s with like supermoto conversion kits, so you know, small wheels, just crazy aggression. But I don't know, recently there are a few companies bringing out a smaller, more like nippy and less intimidating supermoto, such as KTM's SMCR 390, which is coming out or is out, and then you've got this, the DR-Z4SM. So you know, there are a few other brands that are making the most of the small platforms and churning out these supermotos. It's almost like the middle ground between this and the Yamaha WR125. Do you remember those bad boys? Couldn't pull the skin off a rice pudding, but look pretty aggressive and supermoto-esque. So yeah, I feel like these bikes are kind of like the middle ground. Oh crikey. We are going to have to stop. So I can put a toe down, and it's much easier to put a toe down on this because it has a seat height of 890mm, which the DR-Z4S that I've been riding has a seat height of 920. So that's been pretty terrifying off-road, if I'm honest, for me with such short legs. But I definitely feel like 890mm on a bike that's got a narrow seat and is fairly light, I feel like I can usually handle it without much issue, which is good. And when I say light, I know that's probably, that comment that I just made then is probably going to spark some controversy amongst you all in the comments, because you know, its actual weight versus a lot of other bikes out there, you know, it is relatively light. But the problem is it's not really light when you think about, I don't know, I hate to draw on KTM as a comparison when I'm doing a Suzuki vlog, but for example like the SMCR 690, that's lighter and produces more power, but it's not trying to appease a European UK A2 license category. Do you know what I mean? So with A2 motorcycles, it has to be a certain power against weight requirement. So this can be lighter than the KTM equivalent because it actually puts out less power than the KTM equivalent, which means it can be a little lighter. But yeah, the A2 license stuff in the UK is just jokes, because it does stop some bikes being produced at the lightness that they should be produced at. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's no reason a 400 or a 390 in KTM's case should be like around the 151 kg mark. It should be able to be much lighter, but it has to be for those A2 regulations. So yeah. So yeah, realistically, it's not actually that light at all. In fact, it's a little bit heavy from what it could be compared to the more powerful stuff out there that's lighter, that doesn't have to appease those bullshit A2 regs. I mean, don't get me wrong, it still feels pretty light for me. It feels very light, like super light. And that's because it depends what you're used to, doesn't it? I'm used to riding like 200 kilogram plus, hell even 300 kilogram plus in some cases, you know? So this by comparison does feel extremely light. Oh, cheeky chops. But yeah, I think personally, I think this bike might be a bit of a hard sell for Suzuki, if I'm being honest, and that comes from a Suzuki fangirl. I really do like Suzukis. I love their 800 parallel twin engine range. I know there's a lot of people out there that think that all these parallel twins on the market is boring, but it's cost effective. I like the sound, I like the feel. You know, I'm not against them at all. In fact, I really enjoy the GSX 8R. I've got one in my garage on long-term loan from Suzuki, and I can't wait to take it out, thrash it around in the summer, particularly now it's got some Michelin Road 6s on. I'm really excited. But with this bike, I think it'll be a hard sell because it's quite niche, isn't it? And I feel like all the things that make the DR-Z4S good are perhaps more of a hindrance on this bike. So for example, given the fact that it's like 37.4 brake horsepower or something like that, it's not massively fast, it's quite slow. But that actually works for the bike in its S guise, because it's a nice amount of power for green laning, for off-roading, for the rocky stuff. You know, you almost don't want too much power, because then that'd be quite leery. I mean, don't get me wrong, some people do want a lot of power and they do want it leery, but I'm talking about the average UK rider that wants to like dabble in green lanes a bit. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're not gonna want crazy amounts of power, because in all honesty, in reality, they're not going to utilize it all unless they're very, very skilled. So that kind of makes it good. The extra travel on the suspension makes that really good, and Mike only has positive complimentary things to say about that suspension when pushing on, and that's not something that I can comment on, because I can't get that bike and push on it like he can. So his opinion on that is quite important to me, because it helps me see from a different perspective that I'm not capable of seeing. But I think it's also important to communicate that, because there are a lot of people out there that can ride more like Mike off-road and I can't. So yeah, I feel like it's important to share that. You know, its weight off-road makes it good, whereas the weight of this on-road versus the engine that's in it, it just kind of makes it like a slower supermoto than the supermotos of my mind. You know, that are always kind of really powerful rippers that are just absolute hooligan machines. And don't get me wrong, I feel like you can hooligan this machine if you want to. I mean, there's enough professional videography from Suzuki showing actual skilled and competent professional riders, you know, riding this bike, doing mad stuff, all the wheelies, all the skids, all the drifts, everything like that. And if you can ride like that, then this bike, you know, will probably be absolutely fantastic and really fun to do that on. But yeah, that's not me, I'm afraid. I'm just your average wobbler. So like now, I am sat at the lights. I've got a tiptoe down, and I've got my leg on the peg here. So I'm perfectly balanced for the moment. It's quite a flat road, so that's helpful. Might actually do a little motorway jaunt, you know, on this, just to see if it's capable of it. But yeah, I don't know, I think something so niche, priced the way it is, that's what's going to lead it, in my opinion, to be a harder sell than the DR-Z4S, in my opinion. Just because it is such a niche machine, really, in that sense. Like, you're not going to buy one of these for touring. You're also not going to buy one of these to do the green lanes on, because we've got small wheels and we don't have that suspension travel. So, I don't know, you're mainly probably going to buy this doing a little bit of kind of this type of riding that I'm doing right now. You know, just like town hopping. You're going to be doing a bit of commuting, or you're just going to be having a quick little blast out over the weekend, you know. But then I think the biggest problem for this bike is the competition and how that's priced. You've got to really, really like Suzuki to part with this kind of cash. £8,000. Alright, so we're doing a quick motorway jaunt. We don't have a rev counter. I don't know if you can hear that, but it makes quite a whine. I have to say, there's not much vibrations through the pegs or the bars, which has very much surprised me for a single cylinder like this. In fact, I'd probably say the most buzz is through the seat, if anything, but yeah, that's not too bad at all. It feels nicer, in my personal opinion, on the motorway than the S. Like, probably because of the, you know, the smaller wheels. Yeah, but we're coming off here anyway, so we'll take it over Rivington. We'll have to be mindful because the bike's not done many miles, and I think the tyres are still fairly new, so we'll not take the mick, but we'll go and give it a throw around over there. So the brake with this, we do have a bigger disc than on the S. We don't have quick shifters. Morning, Mr. Magpie, give me regards to your wife. We don't have any quick shifters or auto blippers on this, but we do have a nice slipper clutch. And to be honest, it does handle it quite well, banging down the box. You know, if you need to go from 5th to 2nd pretty quickly, it's pretty good. But Suzuki's slipper clutches and stuff like that have always been good in my opinion. Alright, so that little motorway stretch actually surprised me. I thought it was going to be much worse than that. But no, it actually accelerated quite well and felt far more stable at those kind of speeds than its off-road version sibling. Just give it a quick little rip over Rivington, the local playground. Yeah, so we have things like our A mode, we have B mode. When you go to traction control, you've got the same levels. You've got 2, most intrusive, you've got 1, less intrusive. You can switch traction control off completely. And then you've still got G for gravel mode. I think that could have been good. Just a little, you know, attention to detail if it had been like an S for slide mode or something like that, where the ABS is disengaged off the rear so you can slide it around supermoto style. You know, that would have been quite nice. Same here, it says off-road, ABS, on, off. Well, it's not an off-road bike at all, so to have off-road written there, I know it's just a small thing, but like £8,000 bike. And like I know we've got there, it says off-road, ABS off and on. You know, this bike's not going off-road, so it could have been nice if it said supermoto mode or something like that instead. But it doesn't. And I don't know, I just think because the bike is priced so much higher than its competition, just some little like attention to detail, nice touches like that could have been nice. Do you know what I mean? But ultimately the function is the same. So am I just being pedantic? Perhaps. Gotta watch out here for doors opening on you, because people just don't give a damn. Okay, let's go. I think that the torque delivery is quite fun on this bike. It's certainly more fun to ride on road in my opinion than the S, just because you've got those small little wheels that just make it quite point and shoot and quite responsive in the old handling. Alrighty, so we're going on a bit of a quicker road. We're actually in a Nationale, baby. From a handling front, I do feel like Suzuki are quite good at that, to be honest. But you really do have to make sure you're in the right gear, because like we're in 5th now, and we're winding it open. And it's just taking its time to pick up a little bit, so I don't know, that's not a Suzuki issue or DR-Z issue as such, that's just a little bike thing. Just got to rev the knackers off him to get him to move. Yeah, you just gotta... Oh, lots of potholes. They're not good, are they? Crikey. Yeah, you just gotta rev it. Just gotta rev it. It's a small bike. It's a motorbike. Again, just flow it round. 4th gear's doing alright. Oh, we've got our usual Ford. Great, I've just got wet feet now. Love that for me. What an absolute plebeian. Again. Fifth gear in top. On the brakes. Oh, the brakes are actually pretty good, to be fair. The brakes are actually pretty good. Now, as far as suspension goes, I've not really hit many bumps, but Now we're not gonna overtake this car into this bend, just because it's a Rivington and you never know whether you're gonna meet yourself flying up the road. Right, don't put yourself in the edge for me. There we go. Way. You know what, you can still have good fun at legal speeds on these bikes. It's when you start like demanding more from it, like on the speed front and motorways and stuff like that, where things get a bit on the brakes. Oh yes, brake was pretty good then. Got you right down, especially in these conditions. That was actually pretty good. Okay, this is always a bit of a tricky one because it's not good for short people, this junction. Let me tell you that for free. Put your money away. Going into 50, drop it into second. Okay. I think one of the things that Suzuki might struggle with this bike is the higher the price, the more power people expect. Unless the bike delivers something truly groundbreaking and spectacular that can warrant that high price tag. And when you think that you can get things in Suzuki's range that are double the power for a very, very similar price, it makes it a difficult justification, doesn't it? You know, as far as I'm concerned, riding this bike, I'm actually having a fair bit of fun. It's inoffensive, but for £80,000, does a bike need to be more than inoffensive? And I think the answer is yes. I feel like this bike will probably appeal to some die-hard Suzuki fans, maybe previous owners of a DR-Z. I quite like the handling on this. I think it's nice. I think it's quite sharp but also fairly predictable. Like if I weight a peg, it takes a nice amount of time to react. It's not very twitchy in my opinion. Like for example, if I was to get on a Honda Hornet, 1000, 750, 500, don't matter how light they are, if you literally just weight a peg, boom, you're laying down, like going round a bend, on whether you like it or not, you know? So I'm not quite sure I need to do a proper outro with my pros and my cons, because I feel like I hopefully have given a balanced measure of them both across this ride review. I don't tend to do that, but I don't know, I feel like I've just approached this vlog from a different perspective because of the thoughts I had about the bike before jumping on it and stuff like that. So hopefully this layout is good enough for you on this vlog. To summarise, you know, I don't think it's a bad bike. You know, it's got good handling, it's got good brakes, you know, it's got the electronics that you need in terms of being able to switch things off and do silly things as presented in Suzuki's promotional footage, stuff that I can't do. Is it a little too niche is going to be something that all supermotos come across, whether it's a Suzuki KTM or anything like that. Are they too niche? But then I think what makes it easier to stomach is the pricing of things. So, you know, if you've got KTM's equivalent coming in at 5.7 roughly, I'm not actually quite sure, I'm just going off the Enduro R and I reckon they'll be quite similar. I haven't actually done my research, so don't take my word on that, but I think it's probably going to be around that price. And then when you think about this at a pound shy of £8,000, that's a lot of extra money to insure a bike, to fuel the bike, to maintain the bike. Do you know what I mean? You know, you have to think about all that on top of this when you get it, because it is just priced a fair bit higher than most things. But you do get Japanese reliability with this. You do get your proper spread of dealers across the UK, which is quite a good thing. Wow, look at all this traffic. You do get a crazy warranty with Suzuki's, especially if you do the service activated one. Ah, that's why. And, you know, these are all things to take into account as to potentially why it's priced how it is and why it's a bit higher. There's a lot to be said for peace of mind with things, you know, so yeah, it's a tricky one. Overall, I think it's a great bike, but I guess the ultimate question is, could you justify parting with £8,000? That is the burning question. Alright guys, I hope you've enjoyed this, and I'll catch you all on the next video. Toodaloo!